Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The distress call that made the galaxy fear and respect humanity. The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station 7 was usually quiet. Most nights, Pete Wilson would drink his coffee, check the automated systems, and read old sci-fi novels to pass the time. For 15 years, humanity had been listening to the stars, hoping for a sign that they weren't alone. For 15 years, there had been nothing but cosmic background noise, until tonight. Pete nearly spilled his coffee when the alert sounded. At first, I thought it was a system error, he recalled. The computers were programmed to flag any non-random patterns in the cosmic background radiation. Usually, it was just a pulsar or some other natural phenomenon. This was different. The pattern repeated with mathematical precision, not random, not natural, artificial control. "This is Station 7, Pete," he said, his voice trembling, as he activated the emergency line. "I think we've received a signal." Within hours, the best minds in astronomy, linguistics, and mathematics were working on the signal. The pattern was complex but undeniably artificial. After 3 days of non-stop analysis, Dr. Emma Reed, the head of the linguistics team, called an emergency meeting. "It's a distress call," she announced to the room full of military and scientific personnel. "We're certain of it now. The mathematical patterns are universal across space, prime numbers, basic equations, but embedded in them is something more. The signal comes from the Riel system, about 860 light-years away." General Frank Harris frowned. "How can you be so sure it's a distress call?" Dr. Reed projected a series of waves onto the main screen. "Because it repeats with increasing urgency. The pattern intensifies, becomes more frequent. In human terms, it's like someone yelling louder and more frantically for help." The room fell silent. "So what do we do?" someone finally asked. "It would take hundreds of years to reach them with our current technology," Captain Tom Walker, one of Earth's most experienced space commanders, cleared his throat at 45. His weathered face had seen more time in orbit than most astronauts saw in their entire careers. "Not necessarily," he said. "Project Horizon might work." General Harris shot him a warning. "Book, Project Horizon, is classified." "Captain, with respect, sir, if there was ever a time to declassify it, it's now." The tension in the room grew. Project Horizon was Earth's experimental faster-than-light, FTL, drive system, purely theoretical until recently. The first prototype had been installed on a new vessel called the Defiance, and it had never been tested at full capacity. 3 days later, the world's major governments held an emergency summit for the first time in human history. All nations agreed on a single course of action: humanity would answer the call. Captain Walker stood at attention in the White House Situation Room as the final decision came down. "Captain Walker, you and the crew of the Defiance will embark on humanity's first interstellar rescue mission," the president said. "Your experimental FTL drive is our only hope of reaching the Riel system in time." Walker nodded. "How much time do we have for preparation, Mr. President?" 48 hours. "The signal is getting more desperate." The next 2 days were a blur of activity. The Defiance, docked in Earth's orbit, was loaded with humanitarian supplies, medical equipment, and defensive weapons. No one knew what they would find at Riel, but they wanted to be prepared. Walker's core crew consisted of the best Earth had to offer. Lieutenant Jane Miller, the ship's engineer, was a genius with propulsion systems. She had helped design the experimental FTL drive and knew it better than anyone. Communications Officer Mark Davis was a former linguistics prodigy who had joined the space program to hear the stars speak, as he put it. Science Officer Alan Green had 3 favorites and a gift for thinking outside conventional boundaries. The night before launch, Walker couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewport of his temporary quarters on the orbital station, looking down at Earth. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind him. Walker turned to find Dr. Reed, the linguist who had decoded the signal. I always thought our first contact would be a peaceful exchange of knowledge, Walker said. Not a rescue mission, Dr. Reed replied, joining him at the viewport. In a way, this is better. Our first act as an interstellar species will be to help others. I can't think of a better introduction, if we can help them at all. Walker, we don't know what we're flying into. That's why we're sending our best, she said, handing him a data chip containing the latest analysis of the signal. There's something else embedded in it, coordinates within the Riel system. Whoever sent this was very specific about where help is needed. The launch the next day was watched by billions around the world. The Defiance, sleek and powerful, broke free from Earth's orbit and headed to the edge of the solar system, where the FTL drive could be safely engaged. On the bridge, Walker looked at his crew. Final systems check, Lieutenant Miller, FTL drive at 100% capacity. Captain, all systems go. Officer Davis, communications active. We're still receiving the distress signal, stronger now that we're clear of Earth's interference. Officer Green, science stations operational, all sensors ready to gather data on our arrival. Walker took a deep breath. Send the message to Earth Control. Davis nodded. Sending now. Defiance departing solar system. We will reach Riel in approximately 7 days at maximum FTL. We'll establish contact upon arrival. Understood, Defiance, came the reply from Earth. Godspeed. Walker settled into his command chair as Lieutenant Miller engaged the FTL drive. Miller's fingers danced over her console. FTL drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines, then blurred completely, as the ship accelerated beyond the speed of light. The Defiance shuddered, then steadied as it crossed the threshold no human vessel had ever crossed before. They were on their way to answer the first extraterrestrial distress call humanity had ever received, whatever waited for them at Riel. Captain Walker and his crew were determined to help. It was humanity's first step into a larger universe, and they were going to make it count. What none of them knew was that their arrival would forever change the balance of power among the stars. The distress call wasn't just a plea for help, it was the beginning of humanity's rise as an interstellar power. As the Defiance raced toward Riel, the signal grew stronger and more urgent. Something terrible was happening there, and humanity was about to find out what it was. Time behaved strangely at faster-than-light speeds for the crew of the Defiance. The 7-day journey to the Riel system stretched into a surreal experience. The ship hummed with a constant vibration as the experimental drive pushed them through space in ways humans had only dreamed about until now. Captain Walker established a strict routine to keep everyone focused. Daily briefings, system checks, and training scenarios filled their waking hours, though there was still plenty of time to wonder what awaited them. On the third day, Walker found Lieutenant Miller in the engine room, surrounded by holographic displays of the FTL drive. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "Have you slept at all?" Walker asked. Miller jumped slightly, then shook her head. "Not much, sir. I've been studying the drive's performance data." "Problems?" "Not exactly." She gestured to one of the displays. "The drive is actually performing better than expected, we're moving about 15% faster than our calculations predicted." Walker frowned. "Is that safe?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out." Miller pulled up another display. "The drive is somehow becoming more efficient as we travel. It's like it's learning the best way to move through space." "That wasn't in the design." "No, sir," Miller said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "I think we've stumbled onto something new. If I can understand what's happening, I might be able to boost our efficiency even further. We could reach Riel sooner than planned." Walker nodded. "Keep working on it, but get some sleep too." "I need my engineer sharp." "Yes, sir." In another part of the ship, Communications Officer Davis sat with headphones on, listening intently to the alien distress signal. The signal had been growing stronger as they approached Riel, and more complex, too. Walker entered the communications lab. Any progress? Davis removed his headphones. Definitely, Captain. The signal is much clearer now, and I'm picking up new patterns. He pulled up a visualization of the sound waves. See these spikes here and here? They weren't visible in the original transmission we received on Earth. What do they mean? Davis hesitated. I think, they're words, stir, or whatever passes for words in their language. Dr. Reed's initial analysis was correct, this was definitely a distress call, but there's more to it now. Davis played a filtered version of the signal even for Walker's untrained ear. There was a rhythm to it, almost like speech. This part here, Davis pointed to a repeating pattern, appears over and over with increasing urgency, and this section here, he highlighted another pattern, started appearing only recently as we got closer to Riel. I think they know we're coming. Walker felt a chill run down his spine. They can detect us at this distance. Their technology must be far more advanced than ours in some ways, Davis said. But there's something else, something troubling. He played another section of the signal. These patterns here suggest they're under attack. The mathematical sequences have the same structure as the distress portion, but they're faster, more chaotic, like they're describing destruction. Walker's face hardened. Keep working on it, I want to know as much as possible before we arrive. Later that day, Walker called a meeting with his senior staff in the ship's conference room. Science Officer Green had been analyzing data from their long-range sensors as they approached the Riel system. What have you found? Walker asked. Green, a tall man with prematurely gray hair, stood up and activated the room's holographic display. Riel is a blue supergiant star with several planets orbiting it. Based on the signal's origin, we believe it's coming from the fourth planet in the system, which appears to be in the habitable zone, at least, habitable for a species that can handle higher levels of radiation than humans. The hologram showed a bluish-green planet with 2 small moons. What kind of life are we likely to find there? Walker asked. That's where it gets interesting, Green said, adjusting his glasses. Based on the spectrographic analysis of the planet's atmosphere and the frequencies used in the distress signal, I believe the species that sent the call has a biology based on silicon rather than carbon. Silicon-based life? Lieutenant Miller asked. I thought that was just science fiction, technically possible, but very different from life on Earth. Green explained, silicon can form complex molecules similar to carbon, but it requires different conditions, a hotter world, for one thing, which makes sense given Riel's intensity. What would they look like? Davis asked. Green shrugged. Hard to say for certain, possibly crystalline structures instead of soft tissue. Their sensory organs would likely be tuned to different wavelengths than ours, their concept of communication might be fundamentally different, which makes Davis's progress with the signal all the more impressive. Walker noted, there's something else. Green's voice grew more serious. Our long-range sensors are picking up energy signatures consistent with spacecraft in the Riel system, lots of them, and they're giving off radiation patterns that suggest weapons fire. The room fell silent. We're heading into a war zone, Walker said. Finally, it appears so, sir, Green confirmed. Based on the energy outputs, the technology level is significantly beyond our own. Walker looked around at his crew. We knew this mission would be dangerous. We're still going to help if we can, but we need to be prepared for anything. Lieutenant Miller, what's the status on your drive efficiency improvements? I've managed to boost our speed by another 8%, Captain. We could reach Riel in about 36 hours instead of the original 48. Do it. Walker ordered. Officer Davis, continue working on the signal. Try to establish some kind of basic communication protocol we can use when we arrive. Officer Green, I want detailed scans of all ships in the system as soon as we're in range. Identify the aggressors, if possible. As the meeting broke up, Walker remained behind, staring at the holographic image of the Riel system. Humanity's first venture beyond their solar system was taking them straight into an alien conflict. The Defiance was well armed for a research vessel, but it wasn't a warship. If they found themselves in the middle of an interstellar war, their options would be limited. Still, they had come to answer a call for help, and Walker wasn't about to turn back. On the 6th day of their journey, as the Defiance approached the edge of the Riel system, Davis burst onto the bridge, his face pale. "Captain, I've decoded more of the signal," he said breathlessly. "It's worse than we thought. The species sending the distress call, they're being systematically exterminated by some kind of invasive force. They're begging for help from anyone who can hear them." Walker's jaw tightened. "Estimated time to arrival?" 18 hours, sir," Miller reported from her station. "Push it to 15 if you can," Walker said. "We might already be too late." As the Defiance raced toward Riel, the crew prepared for their first encounter with alien life, and possibly their first battle among the stars. None of them knew what awaited them, but they were determined to answer the call that had reached across light years to find them. Humanity's arrival was about to shake the stars in ways no one could predict. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, Lieutenant Miller announced, her voice tight with tension. The Defiance shuddered as the experimental drive powered down. The view screen, which had shown only streaking stars during their journey, suddenly cleared to reveal chaos. Captain Walker leaned forward in his command chair. "My God," he whispered. Before them lay the Riel system in all its terrible glory. The blue supergiant star dominated the view, but it was the scene closer to them that held everyone's attention. Dozens of spacecraft filled the space around the fourth planet. Some were small and nimble, darting between larger vessels, others were massive, easily 10 times the size of the Defiance. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void, leaving glowing trails in their wake. "Scan all vessels," Walker ordered. "I want to know who's who." Science Officer Green bent over his console. "Two distinct types of ships, Captain. The larger ones appear to be the aggressors, heavily armed and showing minimal damage. The smaller vessels are taking heavy losses. The distress signal is coming from the smaller ships," Communications Officer Davis confirmed. From the surface of the planet below, Walker studied the battle. Even to his untrained eye, it was clear the smaller ships were fighting a losing battle. They moved with surprising speed and skill, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. "Any sign they detected us?" Walker asked. "Not yet," Green replied. "We're still at the edge of the system, but that won't last long. With all these energy discharges, someone's bound to notice us soon." As if on cue, Davis's console lit up. "Captain, we're being scanned by multiple sources." Walker took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had prepared for, first contact with not one but two alien species, and in the middle of what looked like a war. "Open a channel," he ordered, "all frequencies, and put our shields up just in case." Davis worked his controls. "Channel open." "Sir." Walker stood up straight. "This is Captain Tom Walker of the Earth vessel Defiance. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. Please respond." For several 10 seconds, there was no reply. Then Davis's console chimed with 2 responses. "Captain, different sources are coming in on screen," Walker ordered. The view screen split. On one side appeared a crystalline being. Its body seemed to be made of translucent blue-green material that caught and reflected light. Where a human would have a face, this being had a cluster of crystal structures that pulsed with inner light. It had no mouth that Walker could see, yet when it spoke, the words came through clearly, translated by the ship's computers based on Davis's work with the distress signal. "Earth vessel, I am Guardian Trell of the Lumi people. We thank you for answering our call. We did not know if anyone would hear us or come to our aid." On the other side of the screen appeared a very different being. This one was larger, with dark gray skin that looked almost metallic. Its eyes were yellow slits, and its mouth was filled with sharp teeth. Its head was elongated and crested with what looked like natural armor. "I am Commander Dax of the Drex Empire," the being growled. "You have entered Drex territory without permission. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Walker kept his expression neutral. "We received a distress call from this system. Under Earth's laws and customs, we are obligated to respond." The Drex commander's yellow eyes narrowed. "The Lumi are our property. Their distress is none of your concern. This system and all its resources belong to the Drex Empire by right of conquest." Guardian Trell's crystalline form pulsed more rapidly. "We are not property. The Drex invaded our home world without provocation. They are stripping our planet of resources and enslaving our people. Many have already been killed." "Your species is inefficient," Commander Dax said dismissively. "You waste valuable minerals growing your crystal bodies when they could be better used by the Empire. Your existence is a luxury the galaxy cannot afford." Walker fought to keep his shock from showing. The casual cruelty in the Drex commander's words sent a chill down his spine. "Perhaps we can negotiate a peaceful resolution," Walker suggested, though he could already see that diplomacy was likely to fail. Commander Dax bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. "There is nothing to negotiate. The Lumi will be harvested. You will leave, these are the only acceptable outcomes." The transmission from the Drex ship cut off abruptly. Guardian Trell's crystal form dimmed slightly. "I fear you have placed yourselves in danger by coming here, humans. The Drex do not negotiate, they only take. How many of your people are left?" Walker asked. "On our home world, perhaps 2 million, Trell replied. "Another 100,000 are scattered throughout our system in ships and on our moons. The Drex began their invasion 3 cycles ago. We had no weapons, no warships, we were a peaceful species devoted to art, science, and exploration. You built these ships since the invasion began." "Green?" asked Officer Green, impressed. Trell's body pulsed. "We adapted quickly. Our science was advanced, but not directed toward war. We have learned much in our desperation." Walker nodded grimly. "Well, we need to know everything about the Drex ships, their weapons, defenses, weaknesses." "Captain," interrupted Officer Green, looking up from his console, 3 Drex warships are breaking away from the main fleet. They're heading straight for us." Walker returned to his command chair. "Battle stations. Lieutenant Miller, be ready to engage the FTL drive if we need to retreat." Miller said hesitantly, "I've been studying the readings from the Drex ships. Their shields operate on a frequency our weapons might be able to penetrate. They're not designed to stop our particular type of energy weapons." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying we might actually be able to fight them?" "I'm saying they might not be as invulnerable as they think," Miller replied. Walker turned back to the view screen where Guardian Trell was waiting. "Guardian, we came here to help, and that's what we intend to do. But I need to know, if we engage the Drex, will your remaining ships support us?" Trell's crystalline form brightened. "We will fight with you until the last of us shatters, Captain Walker. The Lumi may be peaceful by nature, but we will not go extinct without a struggle." 3 Drex warships now in weapons range, Green reported. "They're charging weapons." Walker looked at his crew. Every face showed determination mixed with fear. They had come to answer a distress call, and now they were about to engage in humanity's first interstellar battle. "Target the lead ship," he ordered. "Let's show the Drex that humanity answers when the innocent call for help." The Defiance's weapons powered up, their unique energy signature unlike anything the Drex had encountered before. As the first shots were fired, no one on either side yet realized that this moment would change the balance of power among the stars forever. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Defiance shuddered as its main weapons fired for the first time in actual combat. Streams of concentrated energy lanced out toward the lead Drex warship, a direct hit. Science Officer Green called out, "Their shields are fluctuating." Captain Walker leaned forward in his command chair. "Again, target the same spot." On the view screen, they could see their energy beams striking the Drex ship's shields. Where the beams hit, the shields flickered and weakened, and their returning fire began to falter. Green warned, "The Defiance rocked as enemy weapons impacted against our shields. Alarms are blaring. Shields holding at 82%. Lieutenant Miller reported, "But they won't last long against sustained fire." Walker studied the tactical display. The 3 Drex warships were spreading out, trying to surround the Defiance. They were clearly used to fighting as a coordinated unit, but they were also clearly surprised by the effectiveness of the human ship's weapons. "Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered. "Lieutenant Miller, can you modify our shields to better withstand their weapons?" Miller's fingers flew across her console as she worked on it. "Captain, their energy weapons operate on a different spectrum than ours. I'm adjusting our shield harmonics to compensate." The ship lurched as it changed direction, barely avoiding another barrage from the Drex ships. "Captain, Davis is calling from the communication station. The Lumi ships are moving to assist us." 6 of them are engaging the Drex warships. Walker watched as the smaller, nimble Lumi vessels darted around the Drex ships, firing what appeared to be energy weapons of their own. They weren't as powerful as the Defiance's weapons, but they were forcing the Drex to divide their attention. "Open a channel to the Lumi ships," Walker ordered. Davis worked his console. "Channel open." "Sir, Lumi vessels, this is Captain Walker. Let's coordinate our attack. Your ships are faster than ours. If you can keep the Drex distracted, we can target their shield generators." Guardian Trell's voice came through the speakers. "Understood, Captain Walker. We will draw their fire." The battle quickly took on a new rhythm. The Lumi ships darted in and out, never staying still long enough for the Drex to get a solid lock on them. Meanwhile, the Defiance hammered away at the Drex shields with its more powerful weapons. "Their shields are failing," Green announced, as one of the Drex ships listed to the side, energy bleeding from a wound in its hull. Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Target their weapon systems next." The Defiance's main guns fired again, striking the damaged Drex ship precisely where its main weapon battery was located. There was a flash of light as the weapon system overloaded and exploded, leaving a gaping hole in the ship's side. "One down," Walker said. 2 to go. But the remaining Drex warships had learned from their companions' fate. They changed tactics, moving more erratically and focusing their fire on the Lumi ships rather than the Defiance. "They're targeting our allies," Green said. "The Lumi ships don't have shields as strong as ours." Walker watched as a Lumi vessel took a direct hit. The small ship spun out of control, trailing debris and what looked like crystalline fragments. "Intercept course. Get between those ships and the Drex," Walker ordered. The Defiance surged forward, placing itself between the Drex warships and the remaining Lumi vessels. The human ship's shields flared as they absorbed the enemy fire, shields down to 47%, Miller reported. "We can't take much more of this." Walker turned to her. "You said our drive was performing better than expected. Can we use that somehow?" Miller's eyes widened. "The FTL drive in combat, then, actually, yes. We could create a controlled FTL burst. It would generate a shock wave that might disrupt their systems." "How close would we need to be?" "Very close, almost point-blank range." Walker nodded. "Plot a course directly between those 2 ships. We'll give them a taste of human ingenuity." The Defiance turned and accelerated toward the 2 remaining Drex warships. The enemy vessels, surprised by the direct approach, split apart, trying to flank the human ship. "Now, Lieutenant Miller, as they pass between the Drex ships," Walker ordered, "activate the FTL drive for just a split second." The effect was immediate and dramatic. A wave of distorted spacetime burst outward from the Defiance, washing over the Drex ships. Their shields collapsed instantly, and their systems flickered and died. Both Drek's ships are disabled, Green reported with awe in his voice. All their systems are offline. Walker didn't waste the opportunity. Target their engines and weapons. Make sure they can't get back in this fight. The Defiance's weapons fired again, systematically disabling the critical systems of both Drek's warships. Within minutes, they were drifting powerless. "Captain," Davis called, "I'm picking up a transmission from deeper in the system." It's a lot of transmissions." "The main Drek's fleet has noticed what happened here," Walker grimaced. "They had won this skirmish, but they couldn't hope to defeat an entire fleet." "How many ships?" Green checked his sensors. "At least 30 capital ships, sir, and they're heading this way." The bridge fell silent. They had accomplished what seemed impossible, defeating 3 advanced alien warships, but now they faced overwhelming odds. Guardian Trell's voice broke the silence. "Captain Walker, your ship has done something we thought impossible. You've proven the Dreks can be defeated, but you must not sacrifice yourselves. There are too many of them." Walker considered their options. They could run, return to Earth with what they'd learned, but that would mean abandoning the Lumi to their fate. "Guardian Trell, can your people hold out a little longer? Earth will want to help once they know what's happening here." Trell's voice was solemn. "We have survived for 3 cycles already, Captain. We will continue to fight as long as there are Lumi left to resist, but I fear the Dreks will accelerate their harvesting now that they know outside help has arrived." Walker turned to Davis. "Send a message to Earth, a full report on everything we've encountered. Include all sensor data on Drek's ships and weapons. Tell them." He paused. "Tell them we need a fleet." Davis nodded and began composing the message. "Lieutenant Miller, how quickly can we get back to Earth using the FTL drive?" Miller looked up from her calculations. "With the improvements I've discovered, about 5 days, sir." "And how long until the main Drek's fleet reaches us?" Green checked his sensors again. "At their current speed, about 3 hours." Walker made his decision. "We're going to hold position as long as we can help the Lumi evacuate as many of their people as possible from the most vulnerable positions. Then we'll lead the Dreks on a chase away from this system before jumping back to Earth." "You're intending to be bait, Captain?" Green asked. Walker nodded. "The Dreks seem arrogant, they underestimated us once. Let's hope they do it again." As the crew prepared for their desperate plan, Walker gazed at the view screen, where the beautiful blue-green planet of the Lumi hung in space. Humanity had come to answer a distress call and, in doing so, had stumbled into a war. But they had also discovered they weren't as outmatched as they feared. The Dreks may have been conquering this region of space for centuries, but they had never encountered humans before, they had no idea what they had awakened. "Prepare to engage the main Drek's fleet," Walker ordered, his voice steady despite the odds against them. "Let's show them that humanity stands with those who call for help." Science Officer Green announced, his voice tense, "Main Drek's fleet closing in, 18 minutes until they're within weapons range." Captain Walker stood at the center of the Defiance's bridge, studying the tactical display. The evacuation of the most vulnerable Lumi positions was proceeding, but too slowly, they needed more time. "Guardian Trell," Walker said into the open communication channel, "we need to get more of your people to safety. How many have you managed to evacuate so far?" The crystalline being's voice came through clearly. "Nearly 10,000 from our orbital stations, but there are still many more, and the Dreks are targeting our transports." Walker turned to his science officer. "What are we looking at, Green? Give me options." Green had been working non-stop, analyzing the data they gathered on both the Lumi and the Dreks. He looked up from his console with an unusual expression on his face. "Captain, I've been studying the Lumi biology based on the readings we've taken. There's something remarkable about them." He pulled up a display showing the molecular structure of a Lumi. "Their crystalline bodies aren't just for show, they're living, silicon-based computers capable of storing and processing enormous amounts of data. How does that help us right now? Walker asked impatiently. It might not help in battle, Green admitted, but I've also been analyzing some medical data that Guardian Trell shared with us.